and we'll move to the other world that's also kind of on fire, which is Canada and Canadian politics as a whole. So, as you guys know, we are officially halfway through the Canadian federal election campaign. The election is in about 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks from now, and yeah, it's heating up. I would say it's heating up, but at the same time, it's kind of also fizzling out a little because as the days go on, it's becoming clearer and clearer that the liberals are going to return to power. So I'm not sure if you guys would disagree with me on that, but as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of the liberals, but I have to be realistic of where the signs are pointing to. And objectively, just I don't think there's a way that you can argue that the conservatives are more likely to win. Maybe like at most you can argue is 50-50, but even that's stretching it a little because if you just look at polls, if you look at Polymarket, which it was pretty accurate in predicting the Trump victory, Polymarket is now predicting a 76% chance of a liberal victory, whether it's liberal minority or majority, is predicting a 76% chance that Mark Carney will, in fact, be the prime minister of Canada for the next 4 years. And it's really unfortunate because I think that, like, I'm a supporter of Pierre Poilievre, and I think that in general, he's made a few mistakes in this campaign, and it might cost him the campaign. But in general, I think that he's done a pretty good job, all things considered. And he recently had a rally in Edmonton where, granted, it is Alberta, so support for the Conservatives is very high in Alberta, but Edmonton itself is fairly liberal, I would say. But he had a campaign in Edmonton, campaign rally in Edmonton, and he drew out like I think it was like 15,000 people or something crazy like that. It was one of the largest, if not the largest, political campaign rally in Canadian history. And at that campaign was former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who showed up and gave his full-throated endorsement of Pierre for to be the next prime minister. And here's a photo of the Edmonton rally. So, yeah, I mean, I just wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts on just the state of the race in general. Do you think that, like, what do you think Pierre is doing wrong? Is there a chance that he could save this, uh, or is it a done deal now? And I also wanted to pressure Tristan again for an endorsement if you're ready to give that. But if not, you have to also defend yourself as to why you have not made up your mind with only 2 weeks left to go. So I'll give Tristan some time to think about that. So I'll pass it off to Sunil first.
Sounds good. I'll be quick on this one because my answer hasn't changed since last week. It's painful to watch. I'm not going to challenge the polls because I have nothing. I have no other data to go on. If Polymarket and the polls are telling me that Carney's going to win, then he's probably going to win. If the election was held today, I think that Pierre has a better ground game. I think he's attracting a lot younger people. I think he's showing the right energy. I think that there's a lot of things going well for the Conservative campaign. On the media side of it, they're losing. They're not getting in the news. Nobody's paying attention to them. Carney's dominating the news cycle. The news is not going to be fair to Pierre, and I don't think that there's any chance that the corporate media or the traditional media is going to change the way they're covering the campaign. I think that Pierre is going to keep getting washed out. The only way he can change the script is through controversy, by having a big idea or pushing something that might like get him in the headlines. And the other option is to get on US podcasts and get millions of views. He has to change the script. That's why I'm coming up with a podcast idea. It's not too late, but I don't see him doing anything to like change the script. I don't see him doing anything to get noticed. I think he has a few good ideas, but I don't think they're bold enough to be talked about. And Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to do something big. I mean, the only from a traditional campaigning standpoint, the only chance he has is to do very well in the debates. So I guess we'll see how the debates go. I think he will probably do better than Carney in the debates. I think he's a better candidate, but there's no guarantee he's going to get the right news coverage that he needs to get noticed. And that's kind of where I feel it's going. I think he's going to lose if the election was held today.
Yeah, it's a uphill battle for Pierre for sure. Tristan, your thoughts?
I think that Pierre's cooked. I think he has I think he sold himself desperately on being the anti-Trudeau, and now that he's against Carney, being the anti-Trudeau does not really work, particularly when the Liberals went and stole, I'd say, 50% of the major things that the Conservatives were talking about, which makes the Liberals seem pretty much on par with the Conservatives on a lot of policies. I was reading the different policy proposals for both parties and their platforms, and it was like reading the Conservative and the Liberal one. It was like honestly shockingly similar. I was like, wow, okay, we're just, you know, basically the same party for the most part. Like, not actually, like obviously there was some difference, but I was like much more similar than it has been in the last I don't know, probably decade. So it was kind of similar to when I was reviewing the Alberta provincial platforms between Rachel Notley and Danielle Smith, and I was like, did you guys hang out in a room together and discuss the same policies? Because apparently you're both saying the same things. So I feel like that's kind of where we're at with Pierre and Carney. I think just to give my casual roast of the NDP out here again, I think that I'm reading the NDP platform. I was like, yes, thank you for reminding me why you are irrelevant. And I didn't even bother reading the PPC or the Green Party ones because I have limited time and I don't care about people who aren't going to do anything. I can lead the PPC or the Green Party and say whatever the hell I want as what I'm going to do. It doesn't change a thing because I'm not going to do anything because I'm not going to become the prime minister. So at that point, I was kind of just like, eh. So I feel like I've talked about this before, but like I definitely have. Where I feel like because the parties are basically all the ones that matter, the Liberals and the Conservatives are saying very similar things. It really comes just down to, do you trust that the Liberals aren't talking out of their ass, or are we suggesting that the Liberals are, basically the same as Trudeau's Liberals, even though they're claiming to do all these different things, and they've got a new leader who definitely has changed everything about them, except he hasn't. Or do you go with Pierre, who is again more of a wild card in the sense of like he hasn't been in power, he hasn't been in the party that's been in power. We don't actually know if he'll follow through on what he said he would. So do you distrust the guys who've been in power and basically rode us off a cliff? Do you think that are we under the impression that they're going to help us climb back up the cliff? I don't know. But you want the guys who have not climbed any cliffs? Also, I don't know. They're all saying they're going to climb the cliff the same way. Which one do we think is better equipped to climb the cliff? And again, I think that's kind of the problem, is that it's not like Pierre can come out here and he's got a real advertising problem, because his whole thing has been, I would say, kind of negative. He's been like, Trudeau bad, Trudeau bad, Trudeau is the baddest, Trudeau is terrible. He's garbage. Nightmare bad. And now he's going, Carney is just Trudeau. Carney bad too. Where Carney is going, I'm gonna do this, build some affordable housing, blah 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 blah. I'm gonna build, I'm gonna do that, blah 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 blah. I'm Carney, and I've somehow come out of completely nowhere and become the leader. And I'm just gonna do all these things, and things are gonna be perfect. So yes, it's we're in a bit of a weird spot. Is kind of what it really comes down to, is like you have two leaders who are saying very similar things. It's not like with Trudeau and the past Conservatives leaders, where you had the past Conservative leaders who were like, climate change isn't real. We should just cut taxes and stuff. And the Liberals were going, climate change is real. We should do everything to stop it, and we should. We're gonna have small deficits forever. Now it's like the Conservatives and the Liberals are both basically saying the same thing, just in blue and red, and I think that's really where Pierre's getting kind of screwed over, is because he doesn't really have a counter to Mark stealing all of his stuff. And since Mark's a new guy on the block, he can kind of be like, yeah, but I was going to do it. This is my plan, not your plan. And I think that's really where his advertising problem comes in.
Yeah, I just, there's no vision here. Like, we Canadians deserve a vision. Like you have an opportunity to show us how you're going to be different than the Liberals, and you're not saying anything. So like, if you're not going to give us a vision, then I'm not voting for you, and I'm not voting. Like, that's my decision at this point. If Pierre doesn't like wake up and give us something bold, I'm not voting. Like, get in the goddamn news, man. Like, do something. Like, say something that pisses people off. Like, do something. Just get in the news. He was doing it like 6 months before the election, and then he decided to stop. I don't know who he hired. I don't know who his consultants are, but Canadians deserve a vision that's separate from the Liberals. We don't want a repeat of the Liberals. Pierre Poilievre is essentially giving us liberal light. He's not giving us a vision for this country.
I'm still gonna vote for Pierre, but unfortunately, I live in a pretty safe conservative area already. So, whether they win by like 60% or 61%, like it doesn't really matter. But yeah, no, I'm totally kind of on your side, Sunil, in spirit. It's just that I think that there's been a lot of these like anti-Pierre talking points from the Liberal and NDP side that are like, Pierre is just like Trump, right? Like, they're trying to like attach him to Trump. But from where I'm standing, I'm actually, as a Pierre supporter, I'm actually like, man, I wish you were more like Trump, because like Trump isn't, like, the left tries to paint Trump as the devil, but there's a reason why Trump won the election, and he won the election in a rather landslide fashion, right? Because as you said, Sunil, like, you need a vision, right? And Trump had a vision, and he wasn't afraid to go on these podcasts where people like Joe Rogan, for example, where he talks for 3 hours, where people can clip, you're going to say some questionable things over the course of 3 hours if somebody really tries to analyze it, right? So he knew that people are going to clip things out of context from a 3-hour conversation and try to paint him in a bad light, and he just didn't give a damn, and he just went on that podcast anyways, right? And Pierre, to his credit, he did go on Jordan Peterson, and that did rile up a lot of Liberals, but I wish he would do more of that stuff. And like, it appears to me that at some point he became afraid of rocking the boat, and this like complacency is what led to the current situation that the Conservatives are in, and it's really sad, because the end result is that we're going to get another Liberal government. And I know, like, people like to pretend that once we swap the leader, everything is fine now because everything bad that happened was all Trudeau's fault. And now Trudeau's gone. We can just, put Mark Carney in and he'll fix everything. Well, it's like, if you look at, it's not just that's like super far from reality, right? Like, it's never fully Trudeau's fault. It's just the whole team. And if you look at Carney's team, it's like 80% the same people as Trudeau. So it's like the same people that have been in power for the past 9 years. It's going to be put back in charge, basically. And I just don't think that that's a recipe for success. Regardless of what you think about Pierre, it's just, if you put the people that caused the issue back in power and you reward them with power after they messed up for a decade straight, like, don't expect things to get better, right? Like, that's all I'm saying, right? Like, and you can try to, like, there's always, when I talk politics, there's always like one or two comments in the comment section that's like trying to defend the Liberals and be like, oh, you're just being partisan, you're just being alt-right. It's like, listen, like, if you've lived in this country for the past 9 years, you know what's been happening, and if you expect things to change under Carney, I think you're going to be in for a nasty surprise. I'm not necessarily saying you must vote for Pierre Poilievre no matter what, but it's just, if you vote for Carney, don't expect change. But that's my total biased opinion. But Tristan, I won't let you off this easily. What do you think? What do you think the answer is between the dilemma that you presented all of us earlier, whether we should, as a country, trust Carney or try something different with Poilievre, even though he's never been in charge, so we don't know how it's going to go, which I agree with you on that. But do we trust Carney or do we trust Poilievre, or do we just stay home and not vote and just abstain from this whole thing?
My writing is definitely going to go conservative either way, so my vote is going to matter very little. That being said, I haven't really figured out who I'm going to vote for. If anything, voting for either the Liberals or the Conservatives at this point feels a little gross. But that being said, I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. I haven't come to a definitive conclusion on who I'm going to vote for at the end of the day. I think especially when they become so similar, it really comes down to who you trust more. And I think that's something that I am still trying to figure out, who I would trust more. And in some respects, I think that maybe I'd be more inclined for a minority government to come into power rather than a majority for either side, because I just feel like the Liberals with the majority is just going to be terrible, and I feel like the Conservatives just don't have any chance of getting majority, so it's not even worth, like, I don't know, suggesting that would be the case. So, for the country, maybe a conservative minority would be better than a liberal minority, given that Trudeau and the NDP seem to run with making the country a little bit more shit every chance they got. Not definitively, but I would say that a fairly poor job was done overall. I will say that the one thing that I've definitively established is that the NDP is completely out. I will not vote for the NDP, which will probably, I think, be the first time that I haven't voted for the NDP. So thanks, Jagmeet. You did great, man. Great job. Great. You've done such a good job. You've driven your base completely out. Like, I how many elections have I voted in now? Probably like 2 or 3. I don't know. It's been at least. And I voted NDP pretty much every time, I think. So I would say that suggests a fairly loyal NDP. leaning perspective, and the fact that they are just completely out to the point where I would say I would be inclined to roast them first of everyone. I'd say is a pretty good sign that Jagmeet, maybe you should you got your pension, maybe it's time to dip, get out of there. So I haven't really decided between to round it out. I haven't really decided between the Liberals, Conservatives. Or I could just take a nap and sleep through the voting time frame. Like I could do that also. I don't have a desperate need to go out of my way to go vote for people who I am not particularly impressed with. And I think that's really where Pierre is kind of faltered really hard. Is just that he's giving me basically no reason to vote for him over Carney. Carney is like, I feel like Carney is trying to win my vote, but I'm like skeptical on the Liberals because of how bad a job they've done. Whereas I feel like Pierre is not really trying to win my vote anymore. I feel like he's just kind of coasting, and I think that's really a contributing problem to this. Is just that I feel like Pierre was doing shockingly well, and I feel like with the Trump getting elected, the Conservatives had no idea what to do, and they've just completely lost everything. The Trump getting elected, which led to the comparisons between Pierre and Trump, who are obviously not the same, but the Liberals were very quick to be like, they're the same, and the Liberals replacing Justin Trudeau, who was literally, I'm pretty sure the lettuce that beat Liz Truss was more likely to get elected than Justin Trudeau. So once they swapped into Carney, I feel like the Conservatives just literally had no idea what to do. They were just completely like, they're like, our entire plan, we had 2-step plan. It was tell everyone that Trudeau is bad and that I am better than Trudeau. And when Trudeau was gone, they were just completely out. They just had nothing left. They had no other ideas. They had no real vision. Their entire vision was, I am not Trudeau, therefore you should vote for me. And once Trudeau was gone, nobody cares that you're not Trudeau because the other guy's also not Trudeau. Trudeau's not in the race. So it's just they've gone, I don't know how they didn't pivot is really what it comes down to. I don't know how they didn't do any real pivot that made them more compelling. And I feel like that's really, like, when it was between Trudeau and Pierre, I think that I was pretty hard leaning Pierre, I would say, because I was just like, Trudeau's just garbage. Like he's just done such a bad job that I can't fathom voting for him. Even though I was like the NDP is just completely lost the plot. So it was like, well, Pierre's the only one who's even remotely compelling. But now it's like, have the Liberals regained the plot? Maybe. They're definitely the closest they've been to regaining the plot since probably pre 2015. So